Hi, welcome. Ashley here with hearthookhome.com, and today we are starting part 1 of the beautiful Come On I Wanna Ruana crochet along. This is my latest crochet along, of course, and it is absolutely beautiful. We are going to start part 1 at the very bottom. We are going to work our way up these Solomon's knots and then create the whole column that goes up the back portion of this pattern. This Ruana is remarkably lightweight. It's so gorgeous. It's a lot of fun, and we are going to work this up together. So move my piece out of the way. Let's talk about materials here for just a moment. I am using a size G crochet hook, which is a 4mm for the brand that I like. And to be honest, you might need a 4.5mm or a 5mm depending on your gauge. Gauge isn't entirely important for this pattern because we are crocheting to specific measurements. That being said, if you want to try your gauge swatch, there is a gauge pattern available on Heart Hook Home in the materials and information post for this. You're going to want to have 18 stitches and 11 rows in 4 inches. This is the yarn that I am using to crochet my Ruana today. This is the newest yarn from Yarn Bee. It's the Soft and Sleek, but it's a DK version, so it's a very thin yarn compared to the other Soft and Sleek they have, which is a worsted weight. This, in my opinion, is pretty thin for a size 3 yarn. So you can also use a mandala or any size 2 or sock weight yarn, etc. That would work out really well. If you want this to come out a little bit larger than mine, you could use a worsted weight yarn and it will come out being just a little bit larger. The size for this Ruana is up to a 3XL, so it's a one size fits most up to 3XL. If you want it larger, go with a slightly larger hook and a slightly larger yarn. All right. Okay, so grab your hooks, ladies and gentlemen, and we are going to start this beautiful Ruana. I'm going to leave my yarn right over here so that it pulls nicely. I'm going to go ahead and start. Your width of the actual Ruana is going to be about 36 inches. Now, if you change your hook size a lot, that's going to change, but it should be around 36 inches. If you're using a larger weight yarn, it might be closer to 40 inches, which is okay. I feel like any larger than 40 inches, and that's going to be too large of a size. So, to start, very first row of this pattern, we are going to chain 154. Don't get too excited. I know we love chaining, right? So I'm going to crochet or make my chains until I get to 154, and then we will hook up together. All right, so now we have 154 chains to get started. Now we're going to do our very first row of Solomon's knots, also known as lover's knots. In this pattern, I have abbreviated it with LK. In one lover's knot set, there are 2. So when you're making a lover's knot, let's pull my piece back over here. When you are making a lover's knot, you're going to have, they look like diamonds at the end, right? So what we have just done in part 1 here, our chain 154 is this chain going along the bottom, okay? Now we're going to go back in and we're going to put these sets of lover's knots all the way through this beginning chain that we just crocheted. Now your lover's knots, when you have them compiled, they're going to form the shape of diamonds, right? So the first one that we're going to do, since we're going into this chain down here, we're going to make one going up and one coming down. One going up and one coming down. And then on the next row, we're going to offset it to pull up, right? It's easier than it looks. So right now, our very first step, our next step, is to crochet the lover's knots that go on this very first row into that foundation chain, okay? Let's get going. Okay, with row 2. We are going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So we're going to go into this chain right here. I like to go into the back bar. So I'm going to place a single crochet in the back bar of this second chain right here. Now we're going to make 2 lover's knots In order to do this, let's zoom in a little bit. In order to do the lover's knots, you are going to pull up about 1/2 inch height. Go ahead and keep the yarn that you're working with pinched kind of in between your thumb and your middle finger back here. It helps to keep the height of your lover's knots to be consistent. So now that we've got it pulled up about 1/2 inch, we're going to yarn over and pull through. So basically we've just made a chain that is about 1/2 inch tall, right? To make the rest of our lover's knot, we're going to insert our hook behind the back bar right here. Insert your hook back there, pull up a loop, and now you're going to yarn over and pull through both loops on your hook. So basically what you're doing is you're creating a very tall chain, and then you're making a single crochet into the back bar of that chain. Okay, we're going to have plenty of opportunity to do this together. Now we've got to do another one in order to continue this lover's knot set, right? Every set is 2 lover's knots. So we're going to pull up about 1/2 inch tall chain. The most important part of this entire Ruana is keeping the consistency of your height here on your lover's knots. So make sure you keep this very consistent every time. Like I said, it does help if you pinch it with your thumb and your middle finger just so that this can't get any taller. If that's as tall as we want it to be, we don't want it to go anywhere after that point. So pinch it a little bit, and then you can complete that lover's knot. So there's our chain, and now we're going to make a single crochet in the back bar of that chain, right? And I'm keeping my thumb and my middle finger tight this whole entire time. So now we have 2 lover's knots. It's beautiful. The very next step is to skip 3 chains and single crochet in the next chain. So I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3 and crochet in this one right by my thumb right here in the back bar. It doesn't really matter if you want to go into the front bars. I don't care. It's going to turn out fine. I just like to go in the back bar. So now we have 1 cute little lover's knot set, right? We are going to do exactly this all the way for all of those 154 chains. I know, you're excited. I'll wait while you calm down from being so excited. Okay, so now we're going to lover's knot, pull up 1/2 inch or so, as consistent as possible, insert your hook under that back bar right there, and make a single crochet. Perfect. Do it again. Nice. Now we're going to skip 3 chains, 1, 2, 3, and go into the 4th and just make a single crochet. Make sure I don't have yarn pulling over here. There we go. Haha. So now in our cute little chain, we've got 2 sets of lover's knots, right? So each one is 4 stitches wide. Go ahead and continue making your knots. And we're going to continue this all the way to the end of the row. When you get to the end of the row, you should end in a single crochet. After you skip the 3 at the very end of the row, the last chain should be a single crochet. So I'm just going to keep continuing adding these lover's knots until the end of this chain. There we go. Now this is the end of our very first row. So at the end of this, well, our first row of lover's knots, technically this is the end of row 2 if you're following the written pattern, because the chain I counted as 1. So now you should have a whole long row of lover's knot sets, right? So each 2 right here, this is a set, this is a set, this is a set, this is a set, etc. So if you start from the very beginning of your row here, you should have 38 of these sets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not going to count all the way, but definitely for you right now, pause it for just a minute and make sure that you've got 38 of these LK sets, right? When you've made sure that you have 38 of those, we are going to start row 3. All right, so now that we are done with row 2, we are ready to start row 3. And since we're using lover's knots, these are kind of wonky until you get going for a bit, you know. We're wanting to have a straight side right up the side here. So I'm going to chain 4 to start my new row, and that'll give it a nice straight side on the side. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. This is the height that I need to start my new row. Now I'm going to make a lover's knot or a Solomon's knot one time. Awesome. Now I'm going to turn my work and I'm going to go back through the Solomon's knots that we just crocheted. So when you do the rows that have a chain 4 with a lover's knot attached to the top, you're going to single crochet into the very first center of the lover's knot set below it. Okay, let's do this together. So we've done our chain 4 and our lover's knot. Now we are going to single crochet into the top of that very first set. So single crochet in that single crochet. Awesome. Now we are going to make 2 single crochets. Or 2 lover's knots. Let me zoom in just a little bit. All right. So now we're going to make 2 more lover's knots. All right. And because the lover's knots, get untangled here, because the lover's knots form the shape of diamonds, when you have these 2 new ones on your hook here, you're going to go and find the highest point of the next lover's knot set, right? So the highest point would be this one right here. The lowest point would be this one or this one, right? Because those are the low ones. You want to go into the highest point and do a single crochet in the center of that single crochet. Awesome. Now make 2 more lover's knots. Just try to remain as consistent as you can with the height of your lover's knots. Now we're going to find the next high point, which is right in between my thumb and middle finger over here on the left. So now we're going to do a single crochet right in that single crochet. So you're skipping these bottom 2 and you're going to go right into the top of this one. And when you do that, by offsetting these as we have, you've now got these little diamonds, right? So these are the diamonds that will create your lover's knot or your Solomon's knot as we're working. So now all we're going to do for the rest of row 3 is we're going to make 2 lover's knots and single crochet in the top of the next set. Okay? We're going to just continue this all the way to the end of the row. And then when we get there, we're going to end with half of a lover's knot set. So we'll work that out when we get there. So keep making your 2 lover's knots. Single crochet in the middle of the next peak single crochet, or the center of the last set, right? I think your verbiage is almost as important on this pattern as knowing how to crochet the Solomon's knot itself. Yeah, we're going to zoom out there. Make sure I'm going the right direction. Okay, yours might look a little funky, and mine does too, right? Totally normal. If it's just a little bit wonky, it's okay. If you notice that yours are really ballooning out really big, you might need to make your loops just a little bit smaller. Just try not to make it go a lot more than a 1/2 inch. And 1/2 inch is really kind of as short as you ever go when making lover's knots or Solomon's knots. Sometimes they go up to 3 inches, which, wow, that would be one huge Solomon's knot, right? Which I guess if you're using a much larger yarn and a much larger hook, that'd be all right. But for this purpose, we want to make sure that we're having our loops be about a 1/2 inch tall. Right now we are getting to where we are close to the end of this row, so this would be the end of row 3. I'm continuing to make my Solomon's knots or lover's knots all the way across this row. Since this is an odd numbered row, we are going to end, oops, I shouldn't talk too much and try to crochet at the same time. We're going to end with 1/2 of a set. Since we started this row with 1/2 of a set, we're going to end this row with 1/2 of a set. And that's the same with any lover's knot row on this pattern. So when we get to the very end, we're going to have 1/2 of one left over. So we're going to go right into the top of that one. And now what we've got left over is 1/2 of a lover's knot, right? Let's zoom in just a little bit. So now we need to do, in order to complete this, we need to do a lover's knot that goes up, and then we're going to do a triple or a treble crochet into this single crochet right here. So make one more lover's knot. And again, this is the end of row 3, or the end of any odd numbered row. Make your one lover's knot. Now you're going to triple or treble, however you want to say it, into this single crochet. So wrap your hook twice, go into the top of that single crochet, and then complete your treble. If you've never made a treble crochet, it's the same thing as a double crochet with just one extra yarn over. So just pull through 2, and pull through 2. Right? So here we are at the end of row 3. It's beautiful. We've got these beautiful little knots forming, and they should look like beautiful little diamonds. Your piece at the sides should go almost straight up. If it bows out and goes just a little bit out, that's okay, because when we do the part 2 next week, we will pull all of these together. So it's okay if it's a little bit too wobbly, especially if you're brand new to this stitch and you're not exactly sure how it should look. It's okay if the outsides are just a little bit funky like this, okay? They're supposed to be, and we will fix that as we go along. So now we are ready to start row 4. Row 4 is going to be very similar to row 2. So when we start an even numbered row, we are going to start with a chain 1 turn. I'm going to reset my camera, and then we will be ready to start row 4. All right, we are ready to start row 4 of the Come On I Wanna Ruana. Right? I just like saying it. Okay, so we're going to start row 4 by single crocheting. So we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to do a single crochet right in the top of that very first stitch. So it's a single crochet into the top of that triple or treble that we just made. So that's how you're going to start that very first row. Now we're basically doing the same exact thing that we did in row 3, except we're starting with a single crochet instead of starting with that chain 4. Now we started with a single crochet, and we're going to make one full set and it's going to complete that diamond. See how this right here is the bottom of a diamond from here to here? Now we're going to make the top part and connect over, right? So now we're just going to make our lover's knots and continue going all the way across the row. So make 2. Find the peak or the center of that next set. So the top of that diamond that we've got in between my left thumb and thumb and finger here. Single crochet right in there. All right. Now make 2 more lover's knots. And go right into the center of that next set. So you're going to skip the bottom 2, which is 1, 2, and single crochet right in here. And that's it. We're going to continue making lover's knot sets. And remember, a set is 2 lover's knots. And then find the center of the next, the top of that next diamond, and single crochet in the top of that. And you're going to do this all the way to the end of row 4. And this is basically the same for any even numbered row. Now that we are getting to the end of the row, we are going to finish with a full lover's knot set. There's only room for 1 more. So we are going to make 2 lover's knots. So we're going to make 1 more set. 1, 2. And now, instead of going into this single crochet or, this lover's knot, we're going to go into the top of that chain 4. We have 2 lover's knots right here. We're going to go right into the top of that chain 4 and make our single crochet. Perfect. So now this is the end of row 4. It still might be looking a little wonky. That's okay. Mine look a little wonky too. But by the end, you'll be looking good. It'll be fine. So you should have, for this row, since this was a row that we started and ended with a full set of lover's knots, you should have 38 again. Remember how on the first row we had 38? We should have 38 again. So on row 4, when you finish that, you should have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way ending with 38 at the very end. So this is our 38th lover's knot. Now we're going to start rows 5, 6, 7, and 8. And what we're doing for those are exactly what we've just done for 3 and 4. So odd numbered rows, you are going to start by chaining 4. And then do a lover's knot, or one of them. Not a set, just one. Turn your work. And now you are going to place your first single crochet. Since this is half of a set, you're going to start in the very first one right here. So this will make up half of your first lover's knot. And now that we're on row 5, now that we've got that first one going, all we're going to do for row 5 is continue making sets. So make 2 more lover's knots, go into the top of this one. Then make 2 more, go into the top of this one. Make 2 more, go into the top of this one, etc., etc. When we get to the end over here, you're going to end on a top one, and then you're going to have to make your other half like we did at the end of row 3. So I'm going to continue crocheting sets in here all the way to the end. When we get to the end, I will resume the video and we will finish that row together and start row 6. So right now I am approaching the end of row 5. And since this is an odd number row, that means we're going to end with half of a set. So we're going to do what we did at the end of row 3. So I'm going to finish this one right here. This is my last full set. Now I'm going to do 1 lover's knot. And I'm going to triple crochet or treble crochet in the single crochet right here. Wrap it twice, insert the hook, and finish it like a double crochet, except there's 1 extra pull through, right? So now we are ready to start row 6. We're going to crochet row 6 just like we did row 4. And since this is an even number, what we're going to do is we're going to use this to chain 1 and turn. We're going to put a single crochet right in the first single crochet there. Now we're going to make our 2 lover's knots sets. We're going to go right into the top of that one. Make 2 more, go into that one, make 2 more, go into that one. So we're really just creating this diamond shape, right? And the more you go, the longer you go, the cleaner it looks. And the sides over here should be pretty straight. If they bow out just a little bit like that, then that's okay. But you want it to be somewhat straight when you go and like pretend like you're gonna block it. You want the sides to be somewhat straight, all right? So now I'm just going to continue making sets of lover's knots and going into the single crochet at the top of each diamond. I'm going to do this all the way to the end of the row, and at the end of row 6 we are going to have 38 full lover's knot sets. So now I'm just going to continue making row 6 all the way to the end. So now I am finishing up row 6, and since this is an even numbered row, we are going to end on a full set of knots, not a half set. So here's 1, and then we've got 1 more, and we're going to go into the top of that chain. So now we've got this set right here. We're going to go into the 4th chain from that beginning chain, and we're going to make our single crochet right there. All right, now we are going to add 2 more rows of lover's knots. Now when we do this, you're going to start with, since this is row 6, we're going to start with row 7, which is an odd numbered row, which means we're going to start with the chain 4 and 1 lover's knot. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, make a lover's knot about 1/2 inch tall. Very nice. Now we're going to turn. We're going to go right into that very first top of that first diamond. Make your single crochet and then continue making your lover's knot sets to the end of the row. You're going to end with a 1/2 a set, which means that when you get to the end of this row, you're going to do 1 lover's knot and then your triple crochet into the top of that single crochet. So when we get to the end over here, we're going to end right here. We're going to do 1 lover's knot to get us this high, and then we're going to do a triple crochet right into this one right here. So this is row 7. Then we're going to do row 8, which is exactly what we just did in row 6. So all of your odd number ones are the same, your even numbered ones are the same. So I'm going to crochet rows number 7 and 8 If you need to rewind and go back and look at rows 5 or 3 even, it's the same as those. So as long as you are following, do the same exact thing for the odd numbers and the same exact thing for the even numbers. Next time I see you, I am going to have completed row 8. All right, guys, I have just finished row 8, which means that we are about ready to start the portion that goes up the middle of the back of the Ruana. So right now, at the end of row 8, you should have ended with a full set of lover's knots. Let me put a stitch marker in here. Because you're not going to fasten off this part, you want to leave it attached because we're going to use this yarn later, just not right now. So go ahead and put a stitch marker in that last stitch. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn and we're going to mark our place for the middle portion that goes straight up the entire back of the Ruana, right? So we're going to turn. And now I want you to take some stitch markers and we're going to mark our stitches. You're going to count 17 lover's knot sets and put in a stitch marker. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, and 17. So this is the end of our 17th knot. So we're going to put a stitch marker in the single crochet so that there's 17 total knots on the right side of this stitch marker. Now that we've got that placed, we're going to count 4 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and now put a stitch marker right in the next single crochet. So you should have 4 total in between your stitch markers. Sorry, trying to get situated here with my fingers and everything. Okay, so now at this point of your Ruana, this yarn right here that we are working from for the bottom part, we're going to move this over to the side. We are not going to use that right now. When you have these 2 stitch markers in place, there should be 17 full lover's knot sets over here, or Solomon's knots, 4 full ones in the middle, and 17 full ones on the left side. I'm going to go ahead and count my left side. It should be correct, you know, theoretically, but I'm going to count just in case. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Beautiful. Okay. The most important thing at this point in the pattern is that you make sure that at the end of row 8, you turn. We already did that, but make sure that you do turn because you want these to be even on both sides. 4 in the middle, even on both sides, okay? So now we are going to attach our yarn so that we can work straight up. This is going to be the center column of the Ruana. So now we are going to grab a new ball of yarn, right? I'm going to grab a brand new one because honestly you could clip it and reattach it, but this way we don't have to weave in as many ends, and I will definitely take that route if possible. So I'm going to find the end of my yarn here. We are going to leave about a 40-inch long tail, and this is just for later to make sure you have enough for sewing. So I'm just going to pull some out here. I don't know how long that is, but it's going to be plenty long enough. So 40 inches or so should suffice. You're going to insert your hook in the right stitch marker for your center. So this one right here. We're going to insert our hook into this single crochet. That one right there. Okay, so this is still where we are, where we have the full 4 lover's knot sets, right? So go ahead and use your super long tail and pull up a loop. Looking good, looking good. So now, let me move my tail over here out of the way. We are going to pretend like we're starting another odd row. So we're going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you're going to make a lover's knot, just like we have been doing. Perfect. Now we are going to single crochet in the center of that first one, right? And what we just went into is the top of that lover's knot set. Let me get all situated and we're going to take a look here because I want to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Okay, so now we have those 4 complete lover's knots. Start the center with a chain 4 lover's knot into the side. Now we're going to do a set of 2, right? So 1, 2, and single crochet in there. 1, 2, single crochet in there. 1, 2, single crochet in there, and then we're going to do half of a set going into that one. Let me zoom out just a tiny bit, and we'll do this together. So now we're going to make 2 lover's knots. Find the top of the next set, which is going to be this one right here, and do a single crochet in that one. Okay, make another set. 1, 2, make a single crochet in the top of the next set, make lover's knots, now you're going to find the top of the next, which is right here, single crochet in there, and now that we've gotten most of the width for the centerpiece here, let me move that out of the way. Now we're going to need to do a half. Sorry. Now we're going to need to do a half and go back into this right here. So we're just creating the end of a row right here instead of continuing to crochet across the entire row, right? So we've got that one time, and now we're going to triple crochet into this stitch right here. Yarn over twice, go into that stitch, and make a triple crochet. I'm going to remove this stitch marker since we don't really need it anymore. Now I'm going to start the next row. So now we're going to be starting row 10. Since we ended with a treble crochet, we're going to chain 1 and turn. Now we are going to start another row. Since we're starting this one with a chain 1, these are going to be full sets. This row is going to be a row of full lover's knot sets. So make 2. Find the top of the next diamond and go in a single crochet into that one. Two more. Find the top of the next. 2 more. Top of the next. 2 more. And now we're going to go into the 4th chain on the top of this right here. So this is the chain 4 that we did to start the center portion. We're going to do our single crochet right in there. So now your center column, we're going to call it the center column from here on out, should be 4 sets of lover's knots wide, right? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to continue doing the same exact thing that we did for the entirety of the base here, except we're just going to make this go straight up. That's all we're going to do. So this is going to be the end of part 1. So I'm going to crochet a few more rows with you. The difference here and what you're going to want to pay attention to, now that we've established the width of this center panel, you're going to want to crochet in rows just like we've been doing this whole time until you get to row 51. Okay, when you get to row 51, or however many it takes to get to 29 inches, that's where it's going to stop. Okay, so you want to measure, continue making these rows. You want to measure from the very bottom here, and you don't want to stretch it too much because it's not going to hang that way. The top part will be a little bit pulled tighter because your shoulders will be inside of the Ruana, but you want to make sure that when you measure from the very bottom here all the way to the top, that it's going to be 29 inches. If you're super tall, you can go to 32 inches or 33 inches. If you're super short and you want to make yours shorter, then you could go to 26 or 27 inches. And that's going to be the height from your shoulder, where it hits the back of your neck, to the hem at the bottom. So this is what is going to determine how tall your Ruana is, or at least the back of your Ruana. So I'm going to continue making these rows and just keep going in odd and even rows, right? And we are going to have a center panel before we know it. So I'm going to do my chain 4. I'm going to make a lover's knot. I'm going to turn, put my first single crochet in that first single crochet, make a set, go into that next peak, or the center of the next, make another set, go into the top of that next one, triple crochet into the top of that last right here. Beautiful. There is one more row on our vertical column, so we are just going to continue making this go straight up like this. All right, guys, I am going to pause my video because this is literally all we're doing, this entire column. I will tell you a little tip that really helps. You know how we started, we left the super long tail? It really helps me if I find one of my pretty stitch markers and get those off, they're too shiny. And I'm going to wrap this around my fingers, just these 2 fingers. Since we're going to be leaving these just hanging out loosey-goosey for quite a bit, actually for the entirety of part 1, the rest of part 1, and then all of part 2, we want to make sure that these are not like in our way as we're turning our work and everything else. So I'm going to wrap it around. I'm going to put the whole thing in a stitch marker like this. Okay, and I'm going to put it on the side of my work right here because it ain't going to go anywhere. I'm just going to kind of put it on the side. There we go. So now as I turn my work, this is just going to hang out. It's not going to be super in my face, right? Or in your face. Okay, so I'm going to continue crocheting in rows until this piece from the bottom here to the top is 29 inches, okay, from here to here. Now you're going to end with an odd row. Okay, so that means that you're going to end with a row that starts with a chain 4. All right, I have crocheted in rows all the way until my center panel here is 29 inches. It's just shy of 29 inches from the very bottom to the top. When you are measuring your piece here, you want to go stretch it just a little bit just to relax the chains and the triple crochets, but you don't want to stretch it the entire time while you're measuring. You're going to kind of relax the stitches just a little bit, and then you're just going to let it kind of hang out there, and then lay your measuring tape on top and just make sure that the end over here is right at your 29 inches. They got a little skewed, but you know what I mean. I'm just barely shy of 29 inches when I measured mine. I'm going to go ahead and go with that. It is important to note on the pattern, I have this being row 51. It's okay if yours is row 49 or 55. On my first one that I did, the actual pattern pictures, I went to 51. This one is 55, so I don't know if it's my tension or what, but a few rows is not going to make that big of a difference. So as long as you have 29 inches from here to the very bottom without really stretching it, then you'll be fine. If you're tall, taller than 5'9" maybe, you'll want to have another few inches added on, so you can go to maybe 33 inches. If you're super short and you want it to be shorter, then I would take off 3 inches or so. So whichever way you go, you want to make sure that whatever row you end with, that it is an odd number. Okay, so whether it's 51, 55, 59, whatever, as long as it's an odd number. Then you're going to go on to the next row, which is going to be 4 complete lover's knots. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. I'm going to do my complete row of lover's knots. So you're going to end on a row that has 4 full sets, none of the half sets, okay? So let's go across this whole row. End in the top of that chain 4 like we have been, and now we're going to do the final row of the center piece. This portion that we're doing right now is going to sit along your neck. Okay, so your shoulders are going to be on both sides and your neck is going to be right in the middle. So instead of having this be all funkily ended, we're going to do a single flat row across the top now. So in order to do that, the last row for the center, this will be an odd number row because your full lover's knots rows are always even numbered. So that's why we want this to be an odd number as well. We're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to turn to where we're looking at the top of our work. Now we are going to single crochet in this very first single crochet. Now we are going to loosely chain 3, 1, 2, 3. You don't have to go super loose, but looser than normal. Now we're going to single crochet in the top of the next lover's knot set. So go ahead and put your single crochet there. Loosely chain 3. Go into the next set, the top of the next set, single crochet, 1, 2, 3 chains, into the top of the next single crochet. Now we are at the end here, so what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 and treble crochet in this last one. Chain 1, put a treble right in that last stitch. Boom, boom, perfect. So now the top of your piece here now has this nice flat edge instead of being all funky, right? So we are going to go ahead and clip our yarn. You don't need a long tail on this one, so I'm just going to clip it, you know, somewhat short. Preserve the yarn. Now go ahead and fasten off. Just pull it right on through there. Pull it a little bit. Boom. And you are done. This is the end of part 1. So at the end of part 1, all you have is the bottom band that goes the entire width of the Ruana, and then the center column, which will go up straight up your back in between your shoulder blades and land at your neck. So this is the completed portion, part 1 of the Come On I Wanna Ruana crochet along. I hope you guys love this pattern so far. Learning the lover's knots is so much fun. So the next part, in part 2, we are going to add the 2 sides here, and we will meet up next Saturday to do part 2 on June 8th, 2019. So hook up with me next week and we will be ready to start part 2. Thanks guys. We'll see you soon.